Hello there, wrestling fans! Welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I'm your host, Joe the Panther, the third, and man, another awesome episode of the Panther, the birth of the Panther. And I got another awesome guest. Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to Jade Blackwell. Welcome!
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Uh, introduce yourself.
I'm Jade Blackwell. I wrestle for the promotion Zawa Live. I've been wrestling there for the last 7 months, and it's been a journey, to say the least. It's been really great.
Awesome. So, who trained you?
So for my class, our trainer was Bailey Bright, and we did have like a few of the vets come in and train with us too. So like on top of Bailey Bright, I had Christian Rose do a session or two with our class. My old tag team partner, Judd the Janitor, did some training with us, and I also got trained a little bit by Bobby Houston. So I have a couple vets in the Midwest around there that helped train our class.
Did you just say you had a janitor wrestler? That's another. Wow, I'm gonna add that to the wall of themes that I've heard this past year of like wrestling gimmicks that I've told my dad that stopped him in mid cereal gulp. Like, what?
Yeah, my first tag team partner, when I started, I debuted with Judd the Janitor. When I started going to like indie promotions, he was one of the first people I was gravitated towards. Like 11-year-old me thought he was my best friend. So 8 or 9 years later, being able to tag with him was amazing. Like I can't even describe the feeling to be able to have him be a part of my first match.
Oh wow. So, like as you just said, your first match, like, what were you like? What were like? What was going on in your in you like right before your music hit and like you went through that curtain for the first time?
So, a lot of my friends and my boyfriend's a wrestler, and they're like, "You're gonna be super nervous. Like that's totally normal." And I was like, all day, I'm like, I don't know where this nervousness is that they're talking about. I was super pumped, super excited. I had my dad and my dad's from Nebraska, so he came to see it. I had a bunch of family from all over come. I did not get super nervous until right before like I went out. But as soon as like, and this is every match still, I get really like anxious. But as soon as I hit the curtain and do my little scream, it is just different. Like I'm a totally different person, and it's really cool to be able to like switch between Jade Blackwell and then like Nina. You know?
Mm. Yeah, it's like certain things like we've heard stories of wrestlers they had to like go in the corner and like say a prayer. Some people are like crying, like they don't know what to do. Then they have that belly button. They're trying to eat something, and then they have to go to the bathroom. But it's like with
Oh
you, it's
yeah,
just like
the urge
yeah.
to go like the urge to pee always hits right before you go out. But no, I was still too nervous to eat, and all the crying happened after my match and everything like that. So it was just a mixture of being super pumped and then nervous. But as soon as I hit outside and the crowd just lost it because I debuted in my hometown, so I the crowd completely loved me. It was great.
That's like the most important part. You didn't start like in like a YMCA in the middle of nowhere. You started in your hometown. How much did that like hit you that you're in your hometown debuting?
So it was just like I said, like there's no words to describe. It was just unreal. Like having all of my family, all of my friends from just all over different parts come, and the venue we're at is like 5 minutes away from like the few houses I grew up in. So it's like great to be somewhere where even if like I don't know the people personally, they at least know of me. Because like I said, like the crowd was completely wild. It was like I said, just great to be in my hometown with a guy that I grew up idolizing as my tag team partner. It was the best debut match I could have ever asked for.
That's very important. It was like a person you're one of your favorite people that's in the indies and also your hometown. So you got the double check on the Joe Panther wall.
Right.
Hometown and a person you idolize in the indies. So like who would you say would be like the other than your former tag team partner? Who would you say would be like your other inspirations to like become a wrestler?
So besides like the indies, because the promotion that had got me into wrestling, all of those guys a lot of those guys carried over into Zawa. So I pretty much got to grow up watching these guys, and now I'm sharing a locker room with them. So there's a lot of like the indie guys that I could shout out here. Christian Rose is a huge inspiration to me. Um, Dan the Man just finally came back. He was like a heel for a very long time, and now he's back to being like Dan the Man. On top of indies, Paige and AJ Lee are huge inspirations to me. I actually took a little bit of Paige's stuff, like I do a scream when I'm coming out, and a couple times during my match. My finisher's the Paige Turner. I just always gravitated towards AJ Lee and Paige because they were kind of different. They weren't like the normal divas with blonde hair and makeup and stuff like that. I just loved the type of people that they were. I wanted to be different in a good way.
Mm. That's good to have like people that you gravitate to in the regular mainstay of wrestling. That's like my tie-in question. Like, if you could pick anybody from like either the mainstay of now WWE or the past to have one more match with you, who would they be and why?
So, yeah, the answers aren't going to be any different. I feel like out of the two, I would definitely pick, like, I know I took a lot of Paige, but AJ Lee was just always like my inspiration. Like, I had posters of her on my wall. I have her biography and stuff like that. I just always gravitated towards her because she was kind of tiny, and I'm extremely short compared to a lot of the people on the roster. So like being short and being different, being nerdy was like okay. So like I just would love to be able to say that I stepped in the ring with her because she is just a lot of inspiration of like why I'm okay with being the type of person that I am.
Mm. So, what is your this is the fun part of the interview. What is your go-to food after a wrestling show?
Um, After shows, not a lot of stuff's open, but oh, that's kind of a hard one because it's always different because shows get over late. Usually, I have to hit like a McDonald's drive-through just because that's usually the only thing open late. And I'm a huge like just McChicken and McDouble person, and that's it.
Mm. So, what is like your workout regimen before a show? Like a week of a show, what is it like?
So I usually try to go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week, just depending on like schedule conflicts and stuff like that. I usually try to do at least half an hour to 60 minutes of cardio because cardio is like really important. Getting gassed in matches is something that happens quite often. I'm still trying to get my cardio a little bit better, but mostly cardio is what I'm working on, and then I do just like arms and legs and stuff like that. Just go to the gym. I have my friend Connor Hopkins sent me a like weekly workout regimen, and I try my best to follow that.
Okay. Are you watching anything on like Netflix, Hulu, any of those channels, any Netflix series?
So for a while, I watched the Wednesday series. I'm huge into like American Horror Story. I've rewatched New Girl 1,000 different times. Right now, I'm on the session of getting caught up on YouTube and stuff like that because I kind of ran out of things to watch on Netflix.
You could always watch the old episodes of my other podcast, Ghost Head Talk, and you could also watch the first two episodes of the one I just started with my twin sister, twins at Ringside.
Okay, all right, I'll have
Yes,
to check them out.
and you could also check out the past episodes I've done recently on this channel with dudes. So,
Okay.
um, do you play video games?
So not much as of late, but growing up and a little sometimes, I'm huge into Resident Evil 4. I know they just made a remake. My brother bought it, so eventually I'm going to steal that from him. I've played Resident Evil 4 over 1,000 times. Like I know what's coming, and like the original, I played it on the Wii so many different times. Besides that, I play Minecraft with my boyfriend sometimes. but I don't really usually game as much as I used to.
Do you collect anything?
Not really. I one of my hobbies outside of wrestling is coloring, so I have like a ton of coloring books that I'm trying to finish, but I don't collect any. Well, now I collect wrestling T-shirts. I try to buy T-shirts from my friends and stuff like that. I have a lot of TDC merch, those damn Coyotes merch, and Christian Rose T-shirts.
There's a female wrestler I recently interviewed. She's like a '90s theme, '90s kid.
Okay.
Her T-shirt she showed me was like, I have to send you her Instagram. She's so, as she would say, she's rad. Like her T-shirt is green and it had the guts, the slime on it. It looked like the guts logo, but it had her name in the middle of it. And
Oh,
really,
that's cool.
yeah, she's like her character's like a retro girl. She's wears like orange pants, and she wears like different color armbands, and she's just like, if she would if she stole the DeLorean, she looked like she came straight out of the '90s.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes, she's so cool. She was so awesome. Her background, she had a poster. It said had her name and it said all that. I was like, oh gosh, that is one of my '90s. Like I told her during that episode, you're gonna have to watch it. Watch the full episode. It's so funny. I told her during the Super Bowl, me and my sister were setting up the room and putting things, and we were watching all that. And there was this thing with Keenan, and Keenan was in the tub saying like something in English, then it said it in French.
Mm-hmm.
He said whatever he said. I stopped mid putting something on a wall and stared at my sister, and she stared at me and was like, and I was like, and she's like, at the same time, twin magic. I said, I don't even think for a second there would be not one mom Karen calling Nickelodeon to complain that was disturbing. Whatever he said, but my underpants so full with pudding. It was one of those kind of like, yeah, no. It would have been Karen Central and Nickelodeon Studios back in the '90s. If this era, if they brought it back, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff TV shows could not get away with nowadays.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And as you said, you were watching Wednesday. Like, did you hear the news that they want to start? The girl that played Wednesday, they want to start film. She wants to start filming soon, apparently.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. It was good. It was a little stretch. I have like a really bad attention span, so sometimes like the hour-long episodes are kind of hard for me, but that's one show that I was able to get into a little bit.
It was fun. I really liked the way they did. You know, everybody complained about the dad who
Hmm.
played the actor who played the dad, but I personally think he was a good add to the show. Even though and generally, if you remember the Addams Family, the dad was skinny. He wasn't
Right.
chubby, and I'm like,
And I think that's their problem. They're so used to being a certain way that any little change, someone's going to complain about it.
like I grew up watching the Addams Family, and I could say yes. I'm 39. I soon to be 40. I actually remember watching the old school black and white the one that was on Nick at Night.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember watching those. And that father, he wasn't skinny. He was a little chubby. If you watch it, sometimes you can see he looked a little chubby. What else? You said you don't play video games. I was gonna ask if you ever made yourself in a WWE game.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2010, I think, on the Wii. Oh, I made myself in storylines. I made some of the wrestlers like from like Zawa when I started going back. Yeah, I added myself into that. Definitely not the type of character like. Nope, that's not even true. I definitely black gear, black makeup. So I definitely created myself without like thinking about it.
Mm. Have you ever had any? I know you're pretty new, but have you had any fans do any artwork of you or like give you anything like a pop that looks like you yet?
Um, I think the only fan thing that I can think off the top of my head, my debut, someone made me a bracelet with my name on it. Um, and my little cousin made me a black, green, and blue little rubber band bracelet. Other than that, I haven't had any fan made art yet.
Okay, all right. What else? you have any shows coming up?
Yeah. So April 22nd, I'm not in the show, but I'm going to be around Dreamwave, their anniversary show up in Peru at the Knights of Columbus. I'm going to be around there. Some of my friends are wrestling there, so I try to even go help set up and tear down at promotions that I can. I'll be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on the 28th, Friday the 28th, up at Fourth Wall Wrestling. I'm wrestling Leslie Michelle up there. And then April 30th, Zawa has a afternoon show up in Oregon. There's a few matches, and then we're going to have a little rumble at the end. And
That's
I
cool.
may or may not be in the rumble. We'll have to see. Fingers crossed.
Have you ever heard of Ironheart Pro Wrestling? They're from Wisconsin.
I haven't. I just started getting booked up in Wisconsin. I've wrestled Fourth Wall, and then I just wrestled at Brew City at the beginning of the month.
I know they're still around because I looked their page up after like last month or whatever, and they're still existed. So still had matches that were happening. So I'm like, the pandemic didn't knock it out, but I'm trying to think what else. You already promoted what you're doing. How can our fans find you on social media if they want to follow you?
So I have a Facebook page. It is just Jade Blackwell. I also have an Instagram and Twitter, and if I'm not mistaken, it is just Jade Blackwell 03 for both of those. I'm usually more active on Facebook than like my Instagram and anything like that.
All right. My last question for you is: if a kid, boy or a little girl, came up to you and said, "I want to be a professional wrestler," what kind of advice? What kind of advice would you give them?
So even right now, I would tell them to start kind of like watching matches and stuff like that, getting kind of some moves and stuff to keep in mind that they'd want to do. And before I even started wrestling, my promoter was like, hey, just make sure you're going to the gym, get a lot of cardio in. Cardio is one of the biggest things, like besides like going to the gym and getting weights, because it is really easy to get gassed in a match. So cardio is super important. So just like going to promotions and stuff and kind of getting your foot in the door. I was lucky enough to have like grown up around most of these guys. So getting into the promotion, some of them already knew me. So I kind of had that benefit. So definitely like getting out, reaching out and trying to help tear down and set up. A lot of promoters and a lot of the vets really look at if you're going to shows, even if you're not booked, like I said, going and helping, being like, hey, I can come help set up or tear down whatever you need. Just being around and helping out and getting your foot in the business is super important. It's pretty underlooked, but it's super important. A lot of promoters will look at what you do before and after a show.
Awesome. Thank you, Jade. I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's awesome. Many best of luck in all your upcoming matches, and I would love to have you come back in a future episode. Please tell the owner of your promotion, the promoter about your promotion, tell all the wrestlers that Dudes at Ringside podcast is open and ready to rock.
Yeah, of course.
I'm Joe Panther the Third. Hey, wrong way. Your way.
Oh, I'm Jade Blackwell.
And we will catch you in the next